Aberdeen is a small city on Scotland's east coast, but it's one of the centres of the European oil industry. Aberdeen native Kieran McRae works for the American multinational Halliburton. He campaigns for Scottish independence and says the money that comes from Scotland's oil fields should stay in Scotland.
What we'd be looking at is sort of taking the wealth and put it into our welfare state, because there's quite a big population gap between rich and poor, and we'd like to take that back into the centre again.
The campaigners work hard to get business on side. Kieran's meeting up with Kenneth Anderson. He's in the construction industry and one of the few Scottish business leaders to have come out publicly in favour of independence.
In the British media or in the UK.
He says the construction business in Aberdeen is booming, and splitting away from the UK would bring economic advantages.
Across the road, Shell are still recruiting more people. There's a major skill shortage in this part of the world. But elsewhere in Scotland, Edinburgh is very financially strong, Dundee is rejuvenating, Inverness, the Highland capital, is rejuvenating, and the GDP per person in Scotland is actually higher than the whole of the UK.
Kieran and his fellow campaigners are often out on the streets in Aberdeen, especially on the weekends. But they have a lot of work to do if they're to convince a majority to vote for independence.
They've got the facts, I don't. From what I've read in the newspapers the last couple of days, there's still lots of potential this will work, potentially this will work, but no, this is the direction in which we're going to go.
It's hard to know how much of an independence we'd get, or would it really be a devolution? Would we keep our own forces? Would we keep our own currency? There's a lot of unanswered from a financial point of view as well, and stability. And with all the economic crisis that we've had recently, I'd worry for an even smaller nation.
Polls show over half of Scots planning to vote against independence in September. But in Aberdeen's poorer areas in particular, Kieran's message of more social justice goes down well.
100% of all money that Scotland brings in would come to Scotland instead of down to Westminster, so we can use it where Scotland needs to use it instead of being told.
100% sounds good. Yeah, it might help me make a decision.
Yeah. We'd be looking at 30 hours of childcare a week for 2s, 3s and 4s on the lines of the Swedish model and the Norwegian model, where it's the best education in the world basically.
If they are looking towards helping the young next generation, easy, vote yes.
The anti-independence campaigners are busy too. At the Aberdeen office, this couple's buying a T-shirt for their grandson. They say they're worried about the prospect of a Scotland outside of the UK.
I don't think we're strong enough, and we're little. And I think we should all stay together, not countries breaking apart. It's wrong.
Richard Baker is a Labour member of the Scottish Parliament in Edinburgh. He thinks Scotland already has enough power to make its own decisions.
We do make different decisions now. We take a different approach on university funding. We take a different approach on care for older people. We take a different approach on a whole range of important policy areas already, even with a Conservative Liberal government in the United Kingdom. So we can have the best of both worlds.
But Kieran and his fellow campaigners aren't satisfied with that. After a hard day out on the streets, they take time to enjoy some Scottish beer. But they're still busy planning how to convince enough voters before the referendum in September.